What's going on all of a sudden? Aren't you on a business trip? I'm kind of busy, so I'm gonna hang up. Wait a minute. Is there something else? You're at home today, right? Yeah. And you're coming back tomorrow, right? Yes. All right then. See you. The call ended. I felt a bit cold, but I wasn't pessimistic. I was actually planning to return from my business trip a day early. Today was my husband's birthday, and I wanted to surprise him with a celebration. But when I got home, a shocking scene awaited me. Huh? Is someone here? While I was pondering this, I could hear voices coming from the living room. And not just any voices. My heart was pounding, echoing through me. I approached the door step by step, slowly. I took a deep breath and peeked through the gap in the door. Why? In the living room, my husband and my best friend were embracing on the sofa. Seeing them in each other's arms, I couldn't leave. The expressions he never showed me, the words he never said, all of it was suffocating me. I will never forgive this. The feeling of worthlessness was soon replaced by immense anger. I took out my smartphone from my bag and recorded a video of them through the gap in the door. Of course, I didn't stop there. I immediately sent the video to someone. That person was my best friend's husband. They're doing this. That's unbelievable. I could feel the same anger and helplessness in his voice, even over the phone. But what should we do? They haven't noticed us yet. So, maybe. I suggested something to my best friend's husband. He accepted the proposal, and we started our plan. As a result, what awaited my husband and the others was hell. My name is Nancy, and I'm 27 years old, working as a salesperson. It wasn't a job I started out loving, but now I find it fulfilling every day. I switched careers to this job, and my trainer back then was the man who would later become my husband, Harry. How's it going? Getting used to the job? Yes. Thanks to you, I've learned a lot. That's good. Looks like you'll be ready to go on sales calls by next week. Yes, I will. Don't worry. I'll be accompanying you at first. Harry was always kind in teaching me the job, and it was natural for me to be drawn to him. After work, he often took me out for drinks, making me look forward to going to the office every day. Harry seemed to like me too, and about 6 months after I changed jobs, he confessed his feelings to me. Looking forward to being with you. Me too. Well, at work, since we're colleagues, we'll need to keep it formal, but feel free to speak casually otherwise. Yeah. I hadn't had much experience with relationships before, so sometimes I wondered if I was good enough for someone like me. But he accepted me for who I was. That's why I placed immense trust in Harry. Another 6 months passed, and a new truth came to light. What's with the formality all of a sudden? Oh, how should I say this? Harry looked unusually weak, something I couldn't have imagined from his usual self. I'll listen properly, okay? Thank you. What Harry told me next was beyond my imagination. Actually, Nancy, you're the first woman I've ever been in a relationship with. What? Really? You didn't seem like it. I've been managing to cover it up until now. Harry said this with a shy look, which made him appear really adorable. I wondered why such a great guy had never had a girlfriend before, but I thought it would be rude to ask and kept it to myself. 2 months later, on my birthday, Harry proposed to me. Of course, I accepted immediately. Here, this is for you. Thank you. It was a ring adorned with a small diamond. Overwhelmed with joy, I hugged Harry. Are you happy? Of course I am. I'm so happy. After that, we rented a new apartment and moved in together. We officially became husband and wife, starting our new life. That's when I got a call from my high school best friend, Adriana. Why didn't you tell me? About what? Not about what. About your marriage. Oh. Right. I had told Adriana about our relationship, but I hadn't informed her about our marriage. Sorry. We've been busy with finding a new place and all. That's okay. Can I come over to visit sometime? Sure, but... And I've got something I want to tell you, too. Okay, got it. From past experience, I knew that when Adriana said something like this, it usually wasn't good news. I mentioned this to Harry. My best friend wants to come over, is that okay? Of course. Thank you. A week later, Adriana came over. I went to the door as the intercom rang. When I opened it, there were two people standing there. Well? This is Hugo, my fiancé. What? I exclaimed so loudly it seemed to echo throughout the house. Hearing this, Harry came over. What's wrong? That was quite a shout. It's okay, don't worry. Then Harry noticed something. Huh? Why is Hugo here? Harry! What? Do you two know each other? More like, we're colleagues at work and friends. It took me a moment to process all this new information. I never imagined that my best friend's fiancé would be Harry's coworker. Wow. What? It's not often that partners or friends know each other, right? Well, yeah, that's true. Adriana was visibly excited, her eyes sparkling like a child who had found something rare. Anyway, I invited them into the living room, and we started chatting. The confusion settled, and we shared stories about how we met. And just before they left. Hey! Since we're all here, why don't we exchange contact information? Contact information? It's fate, right? Why not? So, Nancy and Hugo, Harry and Adriana exchanged phone numbers. Adriana sure is a lively person, isn't she? Yeah, she's always been like that. Got me into a lot of trouble back in the day. But you looked like you were having fun. Do I? Soon after, Adriana also got married. This meant more involvement with our close friends as couples. But then, Harry's behavior began to change. I first noticed it one day when he came home from work. Why didn't you answer your phone? Huh? You called? And have you been drinking? The smell of alcohol wafted around Harry as he spoke. Yeah. Hugo invited me for drinks after work. Just stopped by his place. Why didn't you tell me? Sorry. I meant to call. I thought maybe it was a one-time thing. But what if it happened every other day? Indeed, he started going out more on weekends. This was the beginning of the cracks in our marriage. I also introduced Harry to a chiropractor I used to visit because he complained about back pain. He was tall and had a severe hunchback. But when he came back from the chiropractor, he looked remarkably better. You look different. Do I? But I do feel lighter. You definitely look more handsome. Thanks. I was amazed how much of a difference just straightening his back made. And his face seemed to have regained some vitality too. It was when Harry started going to the chiropractor regularly and I accompanied him once. In the treatment room, I had an unexpected reunion. Could it be Michelle? Nancy, is that you? Why are you here? I transferred here from another place. Oh, I see. Michelle was another good friend of mine, like Adriana. We were all in high school together, but she moved away in our sophomore year due to family reasons. It's been since high school, hasn't it? Yeah. I never thought we'd meet here. Me neither. Michelle's massage skills were impressive. It was clear she had a lot of experience. Be sure to come back. I will. As I was paying, I noticed Harry, who had finished his treatment earlier, was comfortably chatting with Michelle on the couch. I left the place feeling a bit uneasy. On the way home. Wow, I feel really refreshed today. You do look great. But I wanted to ask you something. What's up? You seemed pretty close with Michelle. What? Nancy, you know her? Well, she's a friend from middle school. Really? Yeah, but I just found out today she works there. Oh, I see. Michelle is your friend. Is something wrong? No, not really. Let's just head home. I'm hungry. Though I had my doubts, I decided not to dwell on it further. As time passed, we might become acquaintances, I thought. Life was relatively peaceful, but Harry's late returns were still the norm. As newlyweds, this was starting to bother me. Isn't it strange you're always this late? What's wrong all of a sudden? We are still newlyweds, you know. Yeah, that's true. He seemed not to grasp the seriousness of the situation. But that wasn't all. It's like it's none of your concern. That's not true. I've been thinking about a lot. Can't help it. A bit early, but... Huh? Harry handed me a small box. It reminded me of the one he had when he proposed. I opened it and found a ring inside. Small but brilliantly shining. But why? You forgot? Day after tomorrow is Nancy's birthday, right? I completely forgot. I've been asking Hugo and others for advice on what to give for your birthday. Yes, I drank and came home late, but it wasn't because I disliked Nancy. Really? Really. Harry gently hugged me after saying that. It was more than enough for me. I felt Harry's love for me anew. After giving me the ring, Harry started coming home earlier and stopped coming back drunk. I really thought everything was finally settled. Months passed and the season changed to a cold winter. On Christmas Eve, we decided to gather at our house. It was Harry and me, Adriana and her husband, and Michelle. After enjoying some drinks and having a great time, Adriana, already feeling good, made a suggestion. Why don't we all go for a walk a bit? That sounds nice. Nancy, what do you think? I think it's a great idea. Then let's go early. We headed to a nearby park. As we got close, the place was crowded with people because of an event. There are so many people here. Indeed. We should stick together so we don't get lost. As we walked towards the park, we quickly got separated. I had left my phone at home since it was only a 10-minute walk. Why do I always forget it at times like this? I pushed through the crowd, looking for Harry and the others. Unable to find anyone, I sat down on a bench at the edge of the park. Where could they be? I heard whispering behind me. Turning around, I saw several trees, like a forest. Squinting, I could make out the shadows of a man and a woman, apparently kissing. Suddenly, someone spoke to me, nearly making my heart jump out of my chest. Nancy? What are you doing here? Oh, Hugo! I got separated and was looking for everyone when I saw you. I see. I glanced back at the forest where I had seen the two people, but they were gone. For now, we decided to head back to the entrance. After waiting about 10 minutes with no sign of the others, we decided to search again. Shall we search again? Yes, let's do that. We went around looking for the other three once more. Oh, do you have your phone? Yes, I do. Oh, right. Why didn't I think of that? Hugo tried calling Harry and Adriana, but neither answered. He had exchanged numbers with Michelle today, so he called her. Michelle answered right away. I took the phone. Michelle? Where are you? Well, near the big tree. And the others? Leave it to me. Wait. The call ended. I told Hugo about the call, and we both puzzledly headed back towards the bench. There, we found the three of them sitting on the bench. You were here all along? We've been looking for you too. Yeah, but we couldn't find you anywhere. While the two of them were saying this, Michelle was silent. Michelle? Is something wrong? No, nothing. Okay. I felt something was off with Michelle's behavior at that time. Afterward, the five of us returned home. Throughout the journey, Michelle was very close to Harry. She made gestures like linking arms with him, and Harry seemed to reciprocate. Seeing their expressions was frustrating for me. When we arrived home, we decided to take a nap until morning. We all ended up sleeping in the living room, with Michelle sleeping close to Harry. We slept until noon the next day. We really overslept, huh? Is something wrong, Adriana? No, why? Well, you just seem a bit grumpy. No, it's nothing. While talking to Adriana, I noticed Michelle laughing at us from the back. Harry was also smiling and chatting with Michelle. After they left, I confronted Harry. That's not true. Why would you think that? Huh? You were grinning the whole time. What are you talking about? You were happily chatting with Michelle. There's nothing wrong with talking. It's not about that. Enough already. This is getting annoying. Where are you going? Anywhere's fine. Harry took his wallet and left. This was the real start of hell. Harry hardly came home, and when he did, we only had brief conversations like work updates. He usually returned when I was asleep. Anticipating this, I waited for him in the living room. What? You're still up? I wanted to talk. Talk? I don't have anything to say. I'm tired, let me sleep. Wait, we can at least talk. Harry got increasingly irritated and did something unthinkable. Hey, what are you doing? What? It's none of your business. Harry had never referred to me in such a way. Stop it, please. Ignoring me, he threw the photographs we took on our trips, which I had cherished since our marriage, into the trash can. Not just that. He also carelessly threw away the engagement ring and other items. As if they were garbage. Stop it! I covered the trash can with my body. Harry kicked the trash can. It wasn't too big, but the impact sent me flying. Why did I even marry a troublesome woman like you? What are you saying? His eyes didn't look kind like Harry's anymore. He seemed like a different person, and I was terrified. Because I was covering the trash can, I felt pain in my abdomen. Seriously, how long are you going to stay like that? You're in the way. Do you realize what you're doing? Yeah, I do. From now on, you're going to listen to what I say, right? That's not going to happen. Harry then went to the bedroom and, unbelievably, went to sleep. Meanwhile, I rubbed my stomach and gathered the memories that were thrown in the trash can. I couldn't put them back in their original place, so I stuffed them into a bag I found nearby. I didn't like storing them this way, but I wanted to avoid them being thrown away again. Of course, I wasn't just going to stand by after this. The next day, I used my lunch break to prepare divorce papers. There was no bright future in staying with Harry. I waited for him to come home. He was late as usual. Arriving past midnight. I'm home. Welcome back. Oh, you're still up? I have something important to talk about, sit down. Huh? I don't have time for this. Just sit down. Fine. I managed to get him to sit down. We sat facing each other, but Harry was in a bad mood the entire time. I took a deep breath and faced Harry. Here. I handed him the prepared divorce papers. What's this? Divorce papers. Why? After what happened yesterday, this is the only option. I can't take it anymore. Wait a minute. No way. And you're cheating with Michelle, aren't you? What? What are you talking about? You were always so happy talking to her, and you were all lovey-dovey with Michelle. I was convinced that Harry was cheating on me with Michelle. Aren't you misunderstanding something? Sure, we talked, but that's only because she started the conversation. That doesn't mean you're not cheating. Are you serious? Harry seemed unfazed. If you doubt it so much, why don't you ask Michelle? But if you two are in cahoots, asking won't mean anything. All right. Harry started making a phone call. Who are you calling? Just be quiet for a little while. 30 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Wondering who it could be at this hour, I went to the door. There stood Michelle. Michelle! So that was your phone call earlier. Can I come in? Sure. Now it was me, Harry, and Michelle. I was a bit tense, but I couldn't back down. Can you explain what this is about? I'm a witness that Harry isn't cheating. Right? Yes. Nancy, we're not having an affair. I can't believe this. It's true. Well, actually, never mind. Huh? So I told you, didn't I? We're not in that kind of relationship. If you really can't believe it, suing is an option. But ultimately, it's Nancy who will suffer. Michelle's eyes, looking straight at me, didn't seem to be lying. Maybe I thought so because we had been friends for so long. However, I was still in doubt. Even if what Michelle said was true, the fact that Harry had disregarded what was important to me hadn't changed. Then why did you throw those things in the trash? That was, well, not because I disliked Nancy. I was out of my mind at that moment. Harry stood up and apologized. It almost made me feel like I was the bad one. As I was thinking this, I noticed Michelle looking at me, trying to convey something. I had never seen her so serious before. Please, forgive me. All right. But there won't be a next time. I understand. Since then, we have been having relatively peaceful times, I think. Amidst this, my business trip got scheduled. I'm off, then. It's 3 nights and 4 days, right? Yes. Take care. I left for the business trip. It went smoothly, and I was able to return a day earlier than planned. Returning a day early meant I could celebrate Harry's birthday. I kept my return a surprise. However, since it was Sunday, I would be in trouble if he wasn't home. So I called to check his whereabouts. What's up all of a sudden? Aren't you on a business trip? I'm a bit busy, so I'm gonna hang up. Just wait. Is there something else? You're at home today, right? Yeah. And you're coming back tomorrow, right? Yes. All right then. See ya. The call ended. I felt a bit cold, but I wasn't pessimistic. I was preoccupied with celebrating Harry's birthday. I couldn't buy a big cake, but I bought a small one. I also bought wireless earphones he had wanted as a gift. But when I returned home, a shocking scene awaited me. Is someone here? While pondering, I heard voices from the living room. Not just any voices. My heart was pounding, echoing through me. I slowly approached the door. Taking a deep breath, I peeked through the gap in the door. Why? In the living room, Harry and Adriana were embracing on the sofa. Why are those two together? But that conversation earlier was so funny, wasn't it? Right? It was a masterpiece. And to think she suspected Michelle. Well, thanks to that, we can be together like this. Indeed. So that was what it was all about. After that conversation, they began to passionately love each other again. Watching them, I was so confused that I couldn't move. The expressions they showed each other, the words they exchanged, it all suffocated me. I told myself to calm down and took a deep breath. Then, slowly, anger began to well up inside me. I will never forgive this. I felt ashamed for having doubted Michelle, but forgiving them was not an option for me now. I took out my smartphone from my bag and recorded a video of the two through the gap in the door. But I didn't stop there. I had an idea. I decided to send the video to someone. It was Adriana's husband, Hugo. Did you see the video I just sent? She's doing this. Unbelievable. She's been deceiving me. No, it's worse than that, Harry. I could feel the same anger and helplessness from Hugo over the phone. But what should we do? They haven't noticed us yet. So, maybe. I suggested something to Hugo. He agreed to the plan, and we started our actions. What awaited the husbands was hell. I quietly left the house and waited for Hugo's arrival. Sorry, I'm a bit late. No problem. Are you ready? Of course. We entered the house again. From the living room, we could hear their intimate noises. Peeking through the gap, I felt nauseous. Are you okay? Thank you. I'm fine. Hugo's fists were trembling, perhaps from the force of his grip. By the way, is Hugo okay? Yeah. He's fine. He's quite oblivious. I see. He's good at his job, but he's too serious and boring. That's harsh. It's okay. I'm just using him as much as I can. Unable to bear it anymore, Hugo opened the door and barged in. What the hell are you two doing? Hugo looked like he was about to hit them. He must have wanted to. But he spoke calmly instead. The two were frozen, unable to comprehend what was happening. Really, such foolish people. What? Well, I guess I'm part of that too. And weren't you supposed to be on a business trip? I was supposed to be, but I came back a day early to celebrate your birthday. For this, I threw the present and cake I had bought at Harry. What's this? A present for you. Really messed up people. Human trash is what you call people like you. Adriana reacted to those words. What? It's because you're boring. Harry is so much better than you. Hey! Hugo, please calm down. So? What are we going to do now? It's obvious. We're getting a divorce right away. The two seemed not to have considered that seriously. They were showing a look of surprise. If so, they were truly foolish. But wait! What about Michelle? Adriana confronted Harry. What are you talking about? Even last time, you two had a suspicious vibe, right? It was like seeing myself from a little while ago. Call Michelle here. I sensed this was about to turn into a real mess. Adriana thought Harry and Michelle had an affair, but considering what happened before, that seemed unlikely. Harry called Michelle. She arrived here in about 10 minutes. What's going on with everyone? Adriana immediately attacked Michelle. You were having an affair with Harry, weren't you? What? No way. Right? Yes, of course. Then why were you so clingy? Michelle started laughing. Oh, that? Well, what's so funny? Because it's just as I imagined. Huh? My reason for getting close to Harry? It was to draw you out. I couldn't quite grasp what Michelle was saying. What do you mean? We all gathered and I suspected something between the two. I was testing to confirm it. Why didn't you tell me? Because Nancy, you can't hide your feelings. Michelle was right in what she said. If I had been told, I would have been staring at the two of them. But was what I did too meddlesome? Not at all. Well, after doing all this, it might be hard to live a normal life from now on. Oh, right. I have something to ask Michelle. I whispered in Michelle's ear. Ah, I see. Leave it to me. Michelle seems to know things I don't. Then Harry and Adriana reacted. Hey! What are you talking about? Nothing important. Aren't you embarrassed, whispering like that? Not at all. Anyway, you'll probably be hearing from a lawyer later. Look forward to it. That's how it is. Can you two leave now? You're in the way. They hurriedly dressed and left the house together. We who remained sat down at the table and took a breather. I'm so tired. But the hard part is just beginning. It's really headache-inducing. Later, we drank canned beer at the house and commiserated with each other. Hugo and I went to a lawyer's office together afterward. With the video I had filmed, our divorce process seemed straightforward. After the divorce was finalized, Harry contacted me. What the hell did you do? What? Why so sudden? Because of you, I had to quit my job. Really? That's interesting. Don't you care? Well, it's your fault, isn't it? Good luck. We're not done talking. Goodbye. I hung up and sighed. I also called Michelle. Thanks to her, Harry had lost his job. What's up? Thanks to you, Michelle. Harry is jobless now. Good to hear. What else did you say besides the video? Stuff about the walk. Like how the two of them were in the woods that time. Trying to start something in the cold. You know, various things. Seriously? But this will make things easier. How's Adriana? I also asked about Adriana, and it seems she also quit her job. I heard from Hugo that things were even worse than imagined. After the divorce, Harry and Adriana started living together, but they were constantly fighting and struggling financially. Really just fools. Since then, I've been enjoying my single life. Michelle and I continued our friendship. From now on, I will live happily. I'm Mary, 42 years old. 10 years ago, I married a man I met at work. He was divorced with a child, whom I've raised as my own while working. During this time, my husband started his own business and, despite many ups and downs, persevered as the president until the end. My stepson turned 20 this year. He left home 2 years ago to attend a university in a neighboring state and seems to be managing well living alone. But our ordinary life changed abruptly. My husband passed away. He died of a heart attack, and there was nothing that could be done. While I was overwhelmed with grief, there were countless things to take care of, including the funeral and various arrangements, and before I knew it, the day of the funeral arrived. The funeral was a small, family-only affair, as my husband wished. His parents had already passed away, and being an only child, the only family he had by blood was our son. My parents and siblings didn't get along with my husband, so we didn't invite them. It was just me and our son at the very small funeral. Before the coffin was taken away, my son came to me in the waiting room. "What's wrong?" I asked him as usual, but he didn't respond. His expression was almost blank. When I asked again, he suddenly started saying incomprehensible things. "That's enough, you parasite." "What?" "Stop clinging to Dad. You just came in later and started sucking up all his money. You fake mother parasite, just renounce your inheritance and disappear. The real family is just me." After saying that, he left the room, slamming the door behind him. The sound echoed painfully in my heart. After that, we didn't talk, and as soon as the funeral was over, he went back to his dorm. I couldn't ask him what he meant by his words. I tried to contact him, but my messages were left unread, and he ignored my calls. I couldn't confirm anything, and it was already the next day. Today, I tried contacting him several times, but still no response. And with work tomorrow, it's difficult to just leave for his dorm in the neighboring state. So, I stopped by a convenience store to pick up some light food and drinks, then headed home. When I entered my apartment, I noticed a sliver of light under the door to the living room. Hesitantly, I approached and opened the door quietly. To my surprise, there was my son, sitting on the living room sofa, seemingly waiting for me. "What are you doing here?" After moving out for his dorm, my son only came home for the holidays, like Christmas and New Year's. Even during the recent wake and funeral, he didn't stop by here, he just went straight from his dorm and back. Ignoring my obvious confusion, my son confronted me in a calm voice, or rather, a slightly mocking tone. "Was something inconvenient for you? Didn't want to be seen doing whatever you please now that Dad's gone?" "What do you mean?" "Just figured you'd be living it up in your own way now that Dad's not around." "In many ways." "That's not true at all." "Yeah, whatever. Anyway, that's not important. Did you eat?" "Huh? Are you hungry?" "If you haven't eaten, I can make something simple." It was getting late. If he had been waiting in the room alone, he might be hungry. As a mother, it was natural for me to offer, but it seemed to irritate him. Suddenly, he slammed his hand on the table in front of him and glared at me with hostility. "You! Didn't I just say it?" "What?" "How long are you gonna keep shamelessly squatting in this house? You fake mother parasite, just renounce your inheritance and disappear. The real family is just me." The same lines, the same insults as before, came flying out from my son. What's really going on? Did something happen? What? I only put up with you because Dad was around. Who would think of someone like you as my mother? You just leeched off Dad while he was the CEO, sucking up the sweet life. Just get lost now. I was at a loss for words. Indeed, since remarrying 10 years ago, my son hardly ever turned to me for affection. He grew up protected by his kind father, having experienced his parents' divorce at a young age. I felt that my presence had robbed him of his gentle father. So, for the past 10 years, I tried my best to raise him. I made daily lunches, took him to and from extracurricular activities, and created many family-like moments. Even during his rebellious phase, my husband struggled with all sorts of things, but we faced it together, believing it was a phase every child goes through. But it seems my efforts never reached him. My son's painful words inflicted deep damage on my heart. I painfully realized that our relationship was only possible because of the presence of my husband, his blood father, and my husband. My son, openly hostile towards me. This is probably the real face of my son. Perhaps, no matter what I say as his stepmother, it won't reach him anymore. So, I decided to at least listen to his last wish. Yes. No matter what happens, you gotta keep living. Absolutely. Huh? Don't you act all high and mighty, you fake. The words from my son, filled with such intensity, felt like they were piercing through me. What do you want? Get out of here. What? This house belonged to Dad, which means it's now mine. No place for a fake family like you. Kevin. Shut up. Don't talk to me. Don't even say my name. I really want to tell you to get out right now. But I'm kind because you did take care of me when I was a kid. I'll give you a week's notice. This is my house, I can't live in that tiny apartment forever. Just hand over the place and get lost. The last look my son gave me left deep wounds in my heart. With that, he left for his dorm. A week later. After work, I checked my personal phone and saw an unbelievable number of missed calls and messages. Most of them were from Kevin, just as I expected. I turned off my phone for a while and headed home. After a quick dinner and a bath, I turned my phone back on after a few hours. As soon as I did, the sound of countless messages and missed call notifications wouldn't stop. I tried to go through them, and the moment I marked the messages as read, Kevin called, as if he had been waiting. Hello? Hey! What the hell do you think you're doing? Don't mess with me! I could hear my son's anger through the phone. It wasn't surprising. The first message had come in the morning. Calm down first. I can't talk to you if you don't speak properly. What? You're the one making it impossible to talk properly. What's this about the house being up for sale? So, it was about that. Not really surprising. How about we meet and talk? Where are you? Outside the house. I see. So, you saw the for sale sign and started bombarding me with calls. Makes sense. Of course. He must have been there since the morning. Well, there's nowhere else for him to be, I guess. For now, you can still get into the house. If you have the key, go in and wait. It's completely empty, though. What? The key still works? He hadn't even tried it. I suddenly remembered my husband, who had a simple and slow-witted side, just like my son Kevin. He must have tried the key after I suggested it. I could hear the sound of the door opening through the phone. He probably stepped into the entrance, relieved and slightly relaxed, judging by the deep breath I heard. Yet, he couldn't hide his emotions or embarrassment, and his voice came out harshly. Just hurry up and get here. The call abruptly ended, and I let out a heavy sigh. In the midst of my hectic daily life, having just relaxed at home, honestly, going out was a hassle. There were still a mountain of things to do. But I knew I had to have a proper conversation with my son, for various reasons. Resigned to this, I put my coat back on and headed to my former home. As I opened the unlocked door, I saw the cold hallway leading to the lit living room. Walking quietly over the chilly floor, I found Kevin sitting cross-legged in the middle of the empty living room. "You're late. How long do you expect people to wait?" "What?" I came right after the phone call ended. My stronger tone surprised Kevin a bit. But ever since we met, he was always biting back, not just at me, but also at his biological father, my husband. He wasn't going to back down now and lashed out even more. "Are you kidding me? What's with the for sale sign?" "The house is too big for one person, so I thought about selling it." "Your words helped me make up my mind." "Thanks for that." The cold floor of winter was draining the warmth from my body. I turned on the air conditioner as I always did. "What? You can't just sell Dad's house." "Oh. But this is my house." "What?" "This house is mine, legally in my name." "What? You didn't know?" "Don't lie to me. How could you afford a place like this? You think I'm stupid just because I'm young?" No, wasn't it you who treated me with a condescending attitude?" "Of course, I wouldn't say that out loud." "No, it's legally in my name. I can show you the registration if you want." His real thoughts spilled out as I spoke with deliberate firmness. "How can someone with no money like you afford it? You must have tricked Dad into giving you the money. Just like you wormed your way into his life for his money when he was a CEO. I knew it." Even though my husband and I tried desperately to connect, Kevin never opened up his heart. Correctly speaking, my husband became a president after we got married. But it's true, Kevin probably thought some random woman was approaching his father, who could earn enough to start a company. But that doesn't change the fact that you, his son, were freely spending his money, right? "What? You thought I didn't know? You sneaked into Dad's company and stole money during your middle and high school years, didn't you?" Kevin's face stiffened, not expecting me to know. In reality, it was Kevin, not me, who was siphoning off his father's money. "How do you know that?" "I didn't at first. Your father was desperately hiding it to protect you. But eventually, there were accounting issues, and when pressed, your father admitted, Kevin has been coming to the company and taking money." "Dad knew?" "Of course he knew. How much do you think you took from Dad's company?" "How would I know?" $400,000. "What?" "And I think you probably took a few thousand more." Kevin probably didn't even realize he had stolen that much. "Seriously?" he muttered, shaking his foot slightly. No point asking what he spent it on now. "By the way, aren't you wondering how I know all this?" "Yeah. How do you know so much about Dad's company?" "You must have been up to no good." The nerve of this kid, accusing me of wrongdoing. "It's only natural I know. It's my company." "What?" "That company is mine, so of course I know about it." "No way. That was Dad's company. Don't tell me you took over it." "I wouldn't take over such a small company that was in huge debt." "Debt?" "Yes. Dad's company was on the brink of collapse, so we included it under our group to turn it around. That's why you could go to college and still ask Dad for money. You should be thanking me." "What?" Dad was indeed the president since he went independent 8 years ago. But eventually, he became an employed president under our group. Like a salaried president. Why? Like I said, the company was in huge debt and had no way out, so we took it under our wing. "But why?" "Your father had no business acumen. He thought he could handle it even after you stole $400,000 from him. That's impossible for that company. It couldn't make up for a $400,000 loss. So, we took it under our group. Dad cut his salary to pay employees, and I paid for all our living expenses and this apartment, which I owned, to reduce the burden." As I spoke calmly, Kevin's reaction was surprisingly mild, beyond his stiffened expression. He seemed unable to keep up with the facts spilling from my mouth. What do you mean, you already owned it? Oh, I've been investing in various things since I was young. I owned several apartments, including this one, which I bought to rent out. When we were looking for a new place to live, I thought it would be suitable for our family. You own several apartments? Yes, real estate income. How did you have money to invest when you were young? Well, who are you, anyway? After living together for 10 years, he's finally asking. He always thought of me as just an ordinary office worker. Lack of interest is a scary thing. Living life ignoring what should be seen and known. Even the most important things, like your own family. My efforts at parenting were one-sided after all. It wasn't just Kevin's fault. The trauma of divorce in his early years, the appearance of a stepmother he couldn't accept, being tossed around by the whims of adults, these are undeniable facts. But neither my husband nor I could find the answer to what to do. We were either not allowed to find it, or we were not allowed to find it. Now, it's just a result. I need to explain this to Kevin too. I calmly laid out the facts to the suspicious Kevin. Do you know Turner Group? I'm the COO there. What? The Turner Group? Remember my maiden name? Ah. Right, Mary Turner. Daughter of the CEO of Turner Group, the heir to the Turner family. No way. I've never met your family. That's because your father avoided them. He didn't want to face them after running off with the heir to the Turner family, a divorced man. So, he avoided any meetings. What? And then, we had to include his failing company under our group's umbrella. Without even apologizing. That's probably why he lacked business skills. My husband indeed spent his last days running from the Turner family. My family wanted to meet him, but he never did until the end. That's why they weren't invited to the funeral. He was a kind man. Truly kind man. But that kindness also became a source of indulgence and escape. Then that means I'm the grandson of the Turner Group, right? That's true, isn't it? I expected you'd say that. That's why I never told Kevin this truth until now. I thought about telling him when he was in high school, but at that time, it wasn't something he could handle. He would definitely take advantage of the Turner name. In that sense, my husband keeping us distant from my family was a blessing in disguise. Kevin's recent words just confirmed it all. But sadly, you're not the grandson of the Turner Group. What? If you're my mother, then I'm the grandson. Even if you're a fake mother, that's what the family register says. Don't try to deceive me. Did you listen to what I said before? What? What did I say? I wonder if the son in front of me remembers. He looks confused, trying to recall, but it seems nothing came to mind. After you said, the only real family is me, I said, no matter what, you have to keep living. Absolutely. Kevin seemed to remember that, but still had a face that said, so what? Clearly, my words and intentions hadn't reached him. His expression confirmed it. You're 20 years old, you should understand the meaning, right? What? You're an adult and a college student, living a life beyond most adults, without thinking about anything? What? It's normal for parents to support while kids are students. There's no obligation to support beyond tuition and basic living expenses. What? Parents don't have to pay for your leisure and luxury. At my words, Kevin quickly hid his expensive-looking watch. Surely, there are many other things he obtained with the over $400,000 he used. For a student who doesn't work, they're all disproportionate. Such disproportionate armor is fragile and protects nothing. You're okay with your child being homeless? I don't mind. It's none of my concern anymore. What? You're no longer my concern. Kevin looked at me, his face saying he didn't understand. I've never really understood you, Kevin. From the day your father brought you until today, I couldn't strip away that inappropriate, fragile armor with a direct approach. Your father has passed away. So, we're no longer parent and child. What? I divorced your father after his death, and my last name is back to Turner. You and I are now complete strangers. Well, we've always been strangers, actually. Why would you do something like that? Why? You said it yourself. The only real family is you. You never thought of me as family from the start. It worked out perfectly. That's not true. What am I supposed to do without parent? I wasn't your family, remember? You said it yourself. But you should have consulted me. Consult? To someone who never listened even when I tried to connect? To someone who left and never came back, doing whatever he pleased? Besides, we're not family, so why should I consult you? I smiled sweetly at Kevin, his face turning red and his body trembling. It might be immature. But after these 10 years of looking at him as family, maintaining this relationship of stepmother and child seemed too hard. Suffering under a kind yet indulgent husband and a son who wouldn't accept me as family. I've grown tired over these 10 years. What about college and a place to live? Didn't I already point that out? What? No matter what happens, carry on. Absolutely. You demanded that I renounce my inheritance, so you must have thought about it, right? What? The inheritance. What happened to it? Sadly, your father left debts. Consumer loans, credit card loans, about $600,000. And no savings. What? Debts and no savings? Of course, as you demanded, I renounced the inheritance, so all the dead inheritance goes to you. Good luck. What? I'm not inheriting any debts. Why are there debts and no savings? Because you stole from his company, remember? What? I said earlier, besides that $400,000, and there were probably more. Kevin nodded slightly. That was probably used to cover the hole in your father's savings and debts. What? Probably at first, he was trying to cover it up without creating a hole in the company's funds. The company had just started, and there wasn't much savings. Once that ran out, and he couldn't borrow anymore, he struggled for years, trying to deceive, and eventually came crying to me. You had already consumed what should have been your father's inheritance. It's your own doing, isn't it? I wonder if my words reached him. His eyes bloodshot and round, Kevin mutters to himself, exuding an aura of despair. How much is the debt? It was less than $100,000, I think. $100,000? Kevin sat down, holding his head. I'll give you a hint, though. A hint? A hint that might help you survive. What is it? Tell me, quickly. You know, you're asking for a favor. Maybe think about how you ask? Sorry, please tell me. Like I did, you can renounce the inheritance too. Really? His face brightened up, persistently asking how to do it. You can do the procedure yourself if you look it up. Besides, you're a law student, right? Oh wait, you barely got into a decent private university with a recommendation from a low-ranking high school and you're struggling to pass, right? You're technically a junior but haven't even earned 40 credits yet? It makes sense you don't know. I hit a sore spot and he looked down, biting his lip. He might think of me as a mean adult, but it's intentional. He probably hasn't been attending school properly. Less than 40 credits in 3 years. It'll take at least 3 more years to graduate, right? That means 2 more years of tuition. It's far beyond what he could possibly afford to pay. There's some life insurance in your name from your father. Really? It's only $60,000. Seeing Kevin's reaction, as if he wanted to exclaim, "Is that all?" I mentioned that it's also due to his actions that there wasn't more money for insurance, causing him to make an uncomfortable face. And you know, there might be taxes on the insurance money, so look into that. What? Taxes on insurance money? You're an adult, so maybe look it up? Even after taxes, it should be enough to set up a room and live for a while. If you want to continue college, apply for scholarships. Wait, set up a room? What do you mean? The apartment you're living in now. I'm canceling it at the end of this month. What? Why? It's rented under my name. I have no obligation to keep renting and paying for someone who's not my child. Can't you give me like a month's notice? What? You only gave me a week's notice. You have 3 more weeks. You're 20, an adult. You can rent a room and do anything. I'm just following through on your words. Take responsibility for what you said. This can't be happening. He looked to pirate. But from my perspective, there's much more he could do. I wish he'd realized this. First off, why not sell those inappropriate branded items for cash? What? Like that watch you're wearing, and that bag. Do you really need them right now? I want him to think and struggle to find answers. Kevin, who has grown up indulged in his father's unconditional kindness since his mother wasn't around. He might have been awkwardly showing his neediness to me too. But there's a difference between acceptable neediness and harmful self-indulgence. Actions that hurt others and change lives are not neediness but mere selfishness. It's clear that a 20-year-old adult like him will struggle in life if this continues. I don't hate Kevin. In fact, I still think of him as my dear son. That's why I cut ties with him with the greatest love I could offer. He needs to strive on his own now. I left an envelope with necessary documents in front of the still stunned Kevin. I'm sure he will understand. With that hope, I softly stroked his hair for the first time in years and quietly left the former home. 3 years have passed since my husband's death. Every year on his anniversary, I visit his grave and update him. There, I always find beautiful blue gentians laid out. The person who offers flowers to my husband, who had no siblings or parents. I'm sure it must be the person I have in mind. The meaning of the gentian flower is consoling sorrow. Blue gentians symbolize sincerity. The same color as my husband's favorite tie. It's out of season to get these flowers now. I wonder what he thinks and where he gets them. Every year, I lay white gentians next to the blue ones. Their meaning is sincere character. Like my straightforward, kind husband, watching over Kevin from afar. After finishing my visit, I returned to the office. Even now, after 3 years, I continue my daily life as the COO of Turner Group. COO, please check this. What's this? It's the list of new employees joining our group companies next year. Oh, it's already that time of year, isn't it? Every year around this time, the list of new employees joining the group companies is brought to me. With so many companies, the list is quite long, but it's my personal wish to remember the faces and names of the young people who will be working with us. As I was flipping through the list handed over by my secretary, I came across the list from the company where my husband used to be the president. The current president of that company is really unique and capable, isn't he? You knew him from college, right? The secretary approached with a mug of coffee. Its gentle aroma tickled my nose. Yes, he's been a friend since college. He did great in another company, so I lured him over to lead. It was a great success. The company has shown significant growth since then. After my husband's sudden passing, I had to look for a new president. Given the tough business conditions, it was hard to find suitable staff. That meant there was no one suitable within the company either, leading to a tough situation. So I managed to persuade a friend of mine, who had joined a venture company with only a few employees, to join as the new president, and had grown the company to a scale of 100 employees. The existing employees were initially puzzled by the completely different approach of the new president. However, his personality and power led the team, and he continues to elevate the company. I was curious about the new employees he had chosen. As I flipped through the list, I saw a familiar face. It was Kevin. What's this about? I called my friend immediately. Hello. Hey, I didn't hear about this. About what? The new employees starting in April. Oh, were you surprised? He seemed to know what I was talking about. Surprised? Why is he there? Why? Because he's interesting. What? He is quite interesting. His life until 3 years ago was quite heavy, but these last 3 years have amplified his character. I have only high expectations. Listening to my friend, I stared at Kevin's photo on the list. His face had changed significantly, looking much more mature. The expression he had when I last stroked his hair was nowhere to be seen. Okay. Take care of him. Like you have to tell me. The call was abruptly ended. Even though he says that, I know he's watching over Kevin. That's good. I thought to myself, feeling relieved. I might never meet Kevin directly, but I'm sure I'll hear about him often. I can't feel the softness of his hair, but I gently stroke his photo on the paper and smile softly. My name is Ava Smith. I've been married for 2 years, but we don't have children. My husband said he likes career-oriented women, but I want to dedicate my time to household chores and my family. So, instead of quitting my job after having a child, I decided to prepare in advance and quit my job now. My husband understood this decision. However, the reality is that we don't have a child yet. It's starting to weigh on me. My sister, Sophia, always leaves her child with me. She got pregnant soon after getting married. But she and her husband, who wanted a stay-at-home wife, had conflicting views since she aimed to be a career woman. They divorced soon after their child was born. Since then, she often leaves her child with me, saying she has overtime work or company parties. The other day was the same. She brought over my niece, Luna, in the morning, saying she had a long business trip. It's just for a week. A whole week? That's too much. Why? It's no different from usual. Usually, you come to pick her up at night. I can't help it, I'm working. You're not working, and this is like a rehearsal for when you have your own child. Wait. What if she gets sick? Just take her to the doctor. Bye. Even though I told her to wait, my sister left anyway, and I couldn't help but feel angry. But now that she's gone, it's too late to refuse. So, I decided to ask my husband for help, who was getting ready to go to the office. Can you come home early this week? Sorry. I've got a week-long business trip starting today. What? You never told me that. Oh, I forgot to mention it. It was decided yesterday. So, manage by yourself. Alone for a whole week? If you manage now, it'll be easier when we have a child. Counting on you, Mama. And he left. What am I going to do for a week? I'm so anxious. I felt overwhelmed but couldn't do much. Then, my mom called. She invited me to lunch. Normally, I would happily join her, but not today. Mom, help me. Oh dear, what's wrong? I told her about Sophia leaving Luna with me and my husband being away on a business trip. My mom decided to stay with me, saying it would be too hard alone. With her around, I felt more at ease and could enjoy tea and chats while looking after Luna. But then, I realized my husband forgot something important. I tried contacting him, but couldn't reach him. Reluctantly, I called his office. But then, my mom comforted me, but the unease in my heart grew. 4 days later, Sophia contacted me. Thanks for babysitting. What's my cute daughter Luna up to right now? Despite saying she was on a business trip, my sister Sophia sounded very cheerful. Not a hint of fatigue in her voice. I'm thinking of buying some souvenirs, so what would you like? Any preferences? I couldn't care less about souvenirs. If she has the time for that, she should come home. That's all I can think about. Especially since I'm dealing with problems here. Luna had a fever 2 days ago, you know. Oh, wonder what it was. Sophia laughed it off. But I can't come back, I'm on a trip for work. I see. When I called my husband Noah's office, his boss answered. I couldn't believe what I heard. I need to reach my husband because he forgot an important file. He doesn't answer his cell, and he said this file is crucial for his work. Can you tell me where he is on his business trip? However, his boss said there's no business trip scheduled, he's taken a week of paid leave, and I heard it's for a family vacation, sounding apologetic as he informed me. After hanging up and telling my mom, she looked troubled. Then, looking at our family calendar, she asked, "Are these business trips and overtime Noah's?" "Yes, they suddenly come up." "Weren't you taking care of Luna on these days?" She pointed out, and sure enough, there was overtime written with M underneath on the calendar. M for Luna, indicating I was babysitting her. Why does Sophia leave Luna with you on the days of Noah's overtime or business trips? Mom didn't say more, but it was enough to make me think. So, I called Sophia's office, pretending I didn't know she was on a business trip. But I got the same story, a week of paid leave and a family vacation. The word affair started to linger in my mind. They lied to take time off together. Both for a whole week. And no matter how much I tried, I couldn't reach either Sophia or Noah. When Sophia finally called, she sounded too cheerful. Without any guilt or apology for leaving her child. She didn't seem worried about Luna either. Just 3 more days, okay? You can handle the second half. Is that okay with you? Of course, it's work, what can I do? Are you really at work? Of course. What else would it be? I wouldn't leave Luna for anything but work. Then I heard a voice in the background. It was familiar. So, what's Luna doing? We've just finished wake. What? After saying that, I hung up the phone. That voice was Noah. Seeing me dazed, my mom asked what happened. But I couldn't find the words. And I just started crying. After a while of crying, Luna came over with her stuffed animal, saying, "Don't cry." What happened? It was Sophia on the phone. I heard Noah's voice in the background. I suspected they might be traveling together, but hearing it for sure just made it all too real and painful. That would upset anyone. It's natural to feel that way. Mom, I can't forgive. Oh? Which one? Both of them. I can't forgive Sophia for leaving her child or Noah for cheating. Absolutely unforgivable. You definitely can't. Seeing me cry, Luna brought over her toy phone. Auntie, I'll show you pictures, so don't cry. The photos, taken by Luna, were full of flowers and stuffed animals. As I flipped through them, I stopped at one. This one. What about it? My mom leaned in and seemed to freeze in place too. After a moment of silence, she said, "Well then, if that's the case." And smirked mischievously while patting my back. The next day, around noon, the 2 of them, who weren't supposed to be back yet, returned. They were both dressed in leisure clothes. What happened? I asked as I greeted them. Where's Luna? Sophia exclaimed. She's not here. But why are you back so suddenly? Because wake is over. What about the funeral? That's over too. That's too quick. She's a child, it's quick, right? So you came back for that? Of course. You too? Obviously. Strange, I only spoke with my sister. Why would you come back too, Noah, especially when you were on separate business trips? And those clothes don't look work-related. Well, that's... I tried calling you so many times, why didn't you answer? You're one to talk. When I called, you never picked up. Even when I said Luna was sick, you just laughed. Why should I answer your calls? But... Come on, let's go inside. My mom said, peeking out and urging them in. Mom, why are you in black? So, it's true. I thought for sure you wouldn't come back, saying it was work. I wouldn't stay away at a time like this. Oh, really? By the way, you two were on a trip together, weren't you? What? Sophia, who had been crying until then, suddenly froze. Why would you say that? Why? Because it wasn't a business trip, it was a vacation, right? No, that's not it, mother-in-law. It was just a coincidence that we met there. Oh, really? Yes, it was just a coincidence. I see. You forgot this for your work, didn't you? You always take it with you, whether it's a business trip or not. You said you can't work without it. Oh. That's why I tried to contact you, but couldn't reach you. I thought I had to take it to you, even if it meant getting on the plane, so I called your office. Then your boss answered and said you had no business trips planned. Why did you call my office? Well, it was a big deal for my husband. That is. And not only were there no business trips planned, but you also took a week off for a family vacation. I was shocked. Who were you traveling with, I wonder? Oh, Noah, you shouldn't lie like that. And you, Sophia, saying you were on a long business trip was a big lie too, right? That's not true. I called your office too. Why? Because I started having doubts about the two of you. And sure enough, you also had a week off for a family vacation. What's that about? Your own mother wasn't invited on your trip. That's because... No, I was really on a business trip. Just because I said I called the office, not everyone knows my schedule. Maybe someone who didn't know answered. But I said your boss answered, right? Are you saying even the bosses at your company don't know their subordinates' schedules? Is there such a company? We couldn't possibly be traveling together. It was just a coincidence that our trips overlapped. Oh, a lot of coincidences, huh? Look here. I took down the calendar from the wall and placed it in front of them. Here, business trip and overtime, these are Noah's schedules. And M is for the days Sophia brought Luna to our house. The same, right? Amazing how they align so perfectly. I never noticed before, but once I did, it's just too much to be a coincidence. That's because... Because what? They seemed to be desperately searching for a lie to call a reason, but couldn't find a good one. Finally, Noah defiantly said, "These things happen. I'm working, after all." Then what about this? I said, pulling out Luna's phone. See, Luna showed me photos she took herself, and I was just shocked. Look at this, and this, and this, and this. The photos showed Sophia and Noah cozily leaning on each other. There was even a photo of Sophia lying on Noah's lap and another of Noah giving Sophia a back hug. Luna said Noah comes over often, and you two seem really close. She took these pictures of you two. Amazing, isn't it? That was just a coincidence. We were just joking around in those poses. Oh, just joking, huh? I find it hard to believe. If it's not an affair, people don't just pose like that. Noah, you're fine doing this with a woman you don't even like? And Sophia, you let a man you don't like do this to you? Amazing, in a way. You're quite progressive. Don't talk like that. Oh, did I say something strange? I didn't think it was strange at all. It sounds like you're suggesting we have some kind of inappropriate relationship. I frequently go to my sister-in-law's house to see the kid. That's all there was to it. If that's true, then why not say it? Normally you'd say you want to see her, right? I thought it would make you sad because you're disappointed every month about not having a kid. Yes, Noah was thinking about you, Ava, and kept quiet. Really, Sophia? You thought about me too and kept quiet about Noah visiting? Yes, of course. Because you were sad about not having a child. And yet, you left your child for a whole week? Can you believe that? Well, that's because kids are honest, aren't they? But that doesn't mean Noah and I have the kind of relationship you're suspecting. Right. I'm sorry for suspecting you like that. Yeah, it's okay. We're sisters, after all. Really? So, you were on a business trip, right, Sophia? Of course, I was. But it looked like you were on vacation. What do you mean? Look, your Instagram is full of pictures saying currently on vacation. That was just me trying to get into the vacation spirit on Instagram. Really? The food looked delicious, and you even enjoyed the night view. It really looked like you were on vacation. Yeah, I arranged it well, right? Yeah, really well. So, who did you go on this trip with? Because I can see a man's arm in the photos. And Sophia, your arm is entwined with his. That's something people in a close relationship do. Oh, maybe someone from work, perhaps a boyfriend? Sophia's eyes were darting around. It was clear she was lying. Oh, really? But look, this watch. It's Noah's, isn't it? What? Noah bought it when he was younger, saying it was a one-of-a-kind piece. It was quite expensive. No. I thought it was unique, but it wasn't. There must be someone else with the same watch. And what about this bruise? Bruise? Look, this one. You said this bruise was incredibly rare and would be easy to identify in case of an emergency. You don't often see a bruise like this. It's impossible for someone else to have the exact same one, right, Noah? No, that must be someone else with the same bruise. Yeah, that's it. Can you stop joking around? How far will you go to deny it? We're not in that kind of relationship. I see. So, where did you two meet? Surely not in the same hotel, right? Of course not. That's impossible. I see. That's right. Noah's company always uses business hotels for trips. Yeah, of course, it's a business trip. And where did you meet? At this point, both of them responded simultaneously, but their answers were completely different places. They both said they met together, yet their stories were totally inconsistent. I couldn't help but laugh at the misunderstanding, but they quickly corrected themselves. They continued to dig themselves deeper into a hole. Well, never mind. Surely you brought back souvenirs, right? Yes. We did. Let me see them. They presented their souvenirs. I carefully examined the wrapping paper of the souvenirs. I noticed neither had the names of the places they mentioned. Instead, they bore the name of a luxury hotel. And both souvenirs had it. You bought them from the same place, huh? What? No way. But look, both have the logo of a luxury hotel. If you're gonna cheat, you should be more careful with these things. It's not like that. These are sold everywhere. It's a famous hotel. Wow, must be a pretty amazing hotel then. I said this and then turned over my husband's bag. He started panicking, but my mom stopped him. Inside the bag was a toothbrush with the hotel's logo. You're so cheap, always bringing these things back. My sister was gripping her bag tightly. My mom grabbed it from her. Despite my sister's protests, Mom turned the bag upside down. And out came a towel with the hotel's logo. So, it's confirmed. You both stayed at the same hotel, right? Well, we had separate rooms. Still saying that? Then let's call the hotel and confirm if you two stayed in the same room. If we find out that, there's no escaping it. Please don't, I beg you, don't do that. Then will you tell the truth? Yes, I'll tell. I was with Sophia. We're in a relationship. Why? How did it come to this? It started with looking after the kids and discussing work, and then it just happened. I felt sorry for you, but I couldn't stop it. But we're not planning to marry or break up our homes. Too late. It's already broken. Knowing this, I can't think of continuing together. Let's divorce. Wait, I don't want a divorce. Well, I do. I said and spread out the divorce papers on the table. My name was already written in them. My parents' names were in the approval section, and all that was left was for Noah to sign. Okay, I get it. He hadn't expected it to come to divorce and signed the papers, looking defeated. Just then, the front door opened, and Luna's cheerful voice was heard. "I'm back." Holding a bag of snacks, she entered with my father and was surprised to see Sophia and Noah. "Mom." "What, Luna, why are you a ghost? What are you talking about?" "It's the real Luna." "Why?" "You said the wake and the funeral were over." "They are over." "What do you mean?" "She's right here." "Yeah, what's going on?" "You said the wake was over." "Oh, that. We were playing funeral. It just ended." "What about the funeral?" "It's quick because she's a kid." "Kids get bored quickly." "Why would you let her play like that?" "She saw a funeral scene on a TV drama." "Kids imitate anything. Why would you do something so misleading? You just assumed it on your own." But Mom was wearing black clothes and said as expected. "Oh, I didn't say anything. Besides, I always wear black-based clothes every winter. That's why it was just black." "What?" We hurried back from our trip thinking it was Luna's funeral. So it was a trip after all. Whatever. It's too late now. The divorce is final, it's over. Right, Sophia. I'm cutting ties with you too. Why? You seduced your sister's husband. And while pretending to work, you dumped your child on your sister to go on a trip. That's unforgivable. I don't need a daughter like that. That's too harsh. It's what you deserve. I don't care, as long as Luna is alive. Come on, Luna, let's go home. My sister tried to take Luna with her. But Luna refused, saying she didn't want to go. What's wrong? Don't you want to go home with Mom? No. It's not fun with Mom. Here, I have my aunt, grandpa, and grandma. I'm always happy here. But at home, I'm always alone. Even when Mom or Uncle are there. When they are together, they go to the bedroom and tell me not to come in. So, I don't want to go home. Luna. You can't say that. I hate Mom. Oh no. Let her stay for a while. She'll get bored eventually. I won't let you come back home, but Luna is our granddaughter. My sister was shocked to be hated by Luna, but she and Noah left our parents' house. However, she kept calling, wanting Luna back. Ava, how's Luna? She's playing. Right now, she's out walking with Dad. Doesn't she want to come back? No, she's happy here. She says it's not lonely like it is with you. If Luna wants to come back, let me know right away. I know. Even though you stole my husband, you're still Luna's mom. But no matter how many times she called, Luna's feelings didn't change. Even when she talked to Luna directly, she said, I hate Mom. Don't call me, I'm happy here. One day, after all this continued, my sister finally snapped. I married Noah. Oh, congratulations. No matter how much you ask for him, it's too late. Don't worry, I won't ask. I'm giving Luna to you. She doesn't want to come back to me. I don't care about her anymore. I'll have children with Noah. Ah, you think so? Yes, he couldn't have kids with you, but if we want, we can easily have them now. There's no problem. We can have as many kids as we want. Well, good for you. If you can, you should have them. Of course, I can. Noah said you couldn't have kids. That's why no matter how hard you tried, it was useless. He's excited to have kids with me. Oh, he said that? I wonder if he knows the truth. What truth? I won't say Noah is sterile, but the likelihood of infertility is stronger on his side. I've been to the doctor and received confirmation that I can have children. Who told you such a thing? Noah's mom did. What do you mean? Noah had mumps in middle school. He had a high fever for a long time, so it was thought that having children would be difficult. But she couldn't tell me because she knew I wanted kids and was worried it might lead to divorce. That's unbelievable. When I went to report our divorce, she revealed it all. She even told me to make sure to marry someone who can have children next time. So, it turns out I'm not the one with fertility issues. That's ridiculous. But it's not absolutely impossible for him. It's not like he has zero sperm. Good luck with that. I thought I'd have children with Noah when I married him. That's why I quit my job. Oh, but you said you wanted to be a career woman and didn't quit when you had Luna. That's why you divorced your first husband, right? Why did you quit this time? Because I divorced last time, I quit this time so I wouldn't have to divorce again. I see. But Noah likes career women. That's why he was attracted to you. Be careful not to get cheated on. What did you say? Exactly that. What do you mean? For 2 years, we couldn't have children, but Noah never blamed me. I thought he was such a kind man. But now I realize, he knew he couldn't have children. That's why he was kind to me. So, it was his fault. You're lucky, he'll still be kind to you even if you can't have kids. That's not a joke. I want children. This is like fraud. Well, you chose Noah, and took him from me. Nothing can be done now. No returns. What do you mean? Oh, you know what? What do you want to say more? I have to claim alimony for the divorce. What? You're talking about alimony when we might not even be able to have children? Not might not, it's almost certain. And you still want to claim alimony? Don't worry. It's not just you, I'll claim from Noah too. It's infidelity during marriage. He'll have to pay. Why? I can't have children and now alimony? That's too much. Well, you can't help it, you know. If you're going to be angry at Noah. After all, he's the one who might be infertile. I'll be claiming half of the alimony from him. He might even end up paying all of it, but it's going to make his life tough. His boss knows about the affair trip, so hopefully, he doesn't get fired. Why would that happen? Remember, I called Noah's company during your affair trip. His boss answered. That company is very strict about affairs. He's probably close to getting fired. That's not a joke. No joke. But don't worry. There's nothing more to it. Then give me back my child. My child. Sorry, but no. Denied. Later, my sister confronted Noah with the truth. He admitted he knew he probably couldn't have children. That's why he preferred a career-oriented woman who might not want kids. But when Luna rejected her parents, and my sister, having quit her job, wanted children, she kept blaming Noah. He was forced to quit his job and became unemployed, which only added to my sister's frustration. How can you have no children and be unemployed? You are nothing to me. He was cursed daily, and it became painful for him to be with his sister. Ava never said such things to me. Whenever he complained, he was met with even more abusive words. However, 6 months later, surprisingly, Sophia became pregnant. Is it my child? Noah asked, in disbelief. Sophia laughed and said, as if a man without seed could father a child, revealing it was another man's child. You can't produce children, so what's wrong with getting it from someone else? Blame yourself for deceiving me. You should work for this child. This led Noah to a life of juggling multiple jobs. Even when he returned home, he faced only a cold atmosphere, which didn't change even after the child was born. Worn out, Noah contacted me, hoping for help, but I refused, saying it was a marital issue. He was reduced to a life of labor without even a small allowance, his only purpose being to work. Still, he endured, spending his days in tears. Meanwhile, I adopted Luna and now live happily with her at my parents' house. Luna is growing up well, and we enjoy every day together. Today, I'm hosting a Christmas party for 20 family members. Make sure you don't embarrass me. I was completely baffled by Sean's declaration. I was sure the Christmas party was supposed to be at Sean's brother's house. After a while, my father-in-law and mother-in-law arrived. Seeing me clutching my stomach and breathing heavily, they clenched their fists and looked furious. The next moment, my mother-in-law shouted Sean and went back to the living room. In the living room, my father-in-law grabbed Sean by the collar, and the next moment, a loud smack echoed through the room. My name is Kelly Oakwood. I'm a 31-year-old housewife. I married Sean when I was 28. We met at a restaurant we both frequented. We were both regulars there and knew each other by face, nodding in acknowledgement whenever we saw each other. It was a casual acquaintance at first, but one day, when the restaurant's popular dish was down to the last one, Sean kindly offered it to me. Sean is a big guy with a loud voice to match. He's assertive, but at that moment, he bashfully said please, go ahead and gave me the dish. His shy demeanor and large frame seemed so out of balance that I found it adorable. In hindsight, it was a complete oversight on my part. We exchanged numbers and went on several dates. Our first date was at a burger place, and on the next date, he took me to a fashionable bar while I was wearing casual shoes, without consulting me. Sean lacks consideration and has a habit of making decisions on his own without consulting others. Sean, who works for a major electronics manufacturer, seemed successful and boasted about being the first among his peers to advance in his career. His tendency to act unilaterally was a frequent topic of his pride. Perhaps love is blind, as I mistook Sean's behavior for masculinity. Looking back, this was a grave mistake. Sean proposed to me on our third date. I thought it was too soon, but he had already booked a wedding venue. I was more surprised by his initiative than anything else. Eventually, I gave in to Sean's persistence, and we had a whirlwind marriage within a few months. My parents were surprised, but were also overwhelmed by Sean's assertiveness. Sean wanted me to quit my job and become a housewife upon our marriage, but it was too sudden, and I couldn't leave my job. I told Sean I would work until we had children, and he reluctantly agreed. Sean was the type who wanted his wife to take care of the home. The first year of our marriage was blissful, without any major issues. Sean continued to make decisions unilaterally, so things like buying a car or choosing a new home were done without my input. I had always dreamed of seeing the northern lights on our honeymoon, but before I knew it, we were eating pancakes in Hawaii. If I overlooked Sean's self-centered behavior, it was a happy life. However, things started to change dramatically when I became pregnant after a year. It felt less like tumbling down a hill and more like riding a roller coaster. When I found out I was pregnant, I quit my job and stayed at home as Sean and I had agreed. To our surprise, I was expecting twins. Sean seemed deeply moved, saying I'm going to be a father to 2 kids at once. He was so happy that he even bragged about it at work. Sean's phone wallpaper was the ultrasound image of the twins. Sean was showing off the ultrasound image everywhere. I secretly thought it was in poor taste, but I kept quiet. Since it was my first pregnancy with twins, I felt more nervous and anxious than happy. Sean was too caught up in his excitement to pay any attention to my worries. The obstetrician advised me to have a managed hospital stay due to the risks associated with multiple births. Sean agreed to this. It seemed even he was worried about what might happen. Being in the hospital was a relief for me, but I was also worried about something else. Our home. Sean doesn't do any housework. Being the eldest of 3 brothers, he had never done any household chores. It's more accurate to say he couldn't rather than he didn't. Sean comes from a distinguished family, and his house is the main family home. Perhaps that's why he was spoiled growing up. He never had to do housework, and it seems someone always took care of his personal needs. I couldn't leave Sean alone at home. I couldn't imagine coming home to an untidy house after being discharged. So, I asked Sean's parents for help. I asked them if Sean could stay at their house while I was in the hospital, or if my mother-in-law could take care of our house. I get along well with my in-laws. The mother-in-law and daughter-in-law issue doesn't exist for us. Despite coming from a prestigious family, they're very approachable and easy to talk to. Because Sean is incapable of doing housework and has a self-centered nature, my in-laws were very grateful that I married him. Sean ended up staying with his parents until I was discharged from the hospital. I checked into the maternity hospital with peace of mind. Under the care of the doctors and nurses, I safely delivered twins through a cesarean section. They were a healthy boy and girl, crying loudly. When I was discharged, Sean, both sets of parents, Sean's siblings and their families, and my parents all came. It was a gathering of 10 people. The nurses and the doctor were amazed to see so many visitors. They commented on how happy my family seemed. From the outside, we must have looked like a happy family. I was a bit embarrassed by the commotion but secretly happy. That moment was the peak of my happiness. From there, my challenging life began. Sean's attitude changed completely. My life before and after giving birth changed 180 degrees, and for the worse. Issues I thought were problematic before came to the forefront, and any slight hard-working aspect of him disappeared. It all started when Sean returned home. When Sean got home, the first thing he said was, "There's no place like home," and stretched out big. I agreed that there's nothing like your own home. But there I was, with twins in a baby carrier and backpack, hands full. Thinking about life ahead, I just couldn't relax and stretch out like that. Both Sean's parents and mine insisted on giving us space, saying, "You guys need to manage on your own." My parents live about 2 hours away by train, and they had booked a hotel for the day. I tried to convince them to stay with us, saying, "It's a waste, stay at our place," but they quickly headed to the hotel after leaving the hospital. Home is nice, but my mom was always nagging. In the living room, he carelessly threw the baby items we got from the hospital on the floor and flopped onto the sofa. Then he reclined and made a surprising demand. "I want some hot tea." There I was, holding babies both in my arms and on my back. And he's asking for hot tea. How does he expect me to fill the kettle, boil the water, put tea leaves in the teapot, and pour it into a cup? And there he was, complaining about a sore shoulder and rotating it. I decided to ignore his request for the moment. I put the twins down on the baby bed we set up next to the living room. That's when I felt a dull pain in my abdomen. The cesarean section incision hadn't fully healed. My body tensed up in pain, my face contorted, but Sean didn't even glance my way. He was casually playing with his smartphone. I couldn't yell at him and risk waking the peacefully sleeping twins. I had just been discharged from the hospital and hadn't regained my strength yet. After putting the twins to sleep, I reluctantly kept quiet. I decided I had no choice but to prioritize the twins' sleep and my recovery. Sean was not only uninterested in housework but also in childcare. Just a little while ago, we were the envy of nurses for being so happy, but now I felt only anxiety. The next day, my parents came early in the morning. By the afternoon, Sean's parents had also arrived. With both sets of parents and me, we began the arduous task of childcare. Sean, as expected, was of no help at all. In fact, he was more trouble than the babies. While watching Sean, I did my best with my first experience of childcare. My mother-in-law said, "This is the time when children teach you to be a mother." It's hard to believe someone as kind as her is Sean's mother. My parents live farther away than Sean's, so my mom can't come over easily. It looks like I'll be relying more on Sean's family. Sean's dad is still working, so I'll have to depend mostly on my mother-in-law. I'm so glad she's a kind person. Sean's parents were very affectionate towards the twins. Even when I was clumsily changing diapers, they reassured me, "No need to rush, you're doing fine." Amidst this, Sean was the one who felt left out. Since we were all focused on the twins, he seemed to feel excluded. He became more demanding than usual, saying, "I'm thirsty, I want to read the newspaper, I'm a bit hungry." Sean's dad talked to him, since Sean wasn't participating in childcare. It can be hard for fathers to get involved in childcare, but it's rewarding once you try. Both Sean's mom and dad are kind people. I couldn't help but wonder how someone like Sean could come from such wonderful parents. My dad also chimed in, sharing how nervous he was the first time he took me out. However, Sean showed no interest in their valuable advice. All that came from him were half-hearted responses like, "Oh, and is that so?" The stories from Sean's dad and my dad were meant to ease the awkwardness and fears of making mistakes, a kind gesture towards Sean. But it was like talking to the wind. Sean was unaffected. Then, Sean really messed up. Not only was he uninterested in childcare, but his selfish behavior finally made his parents angry. While I was breastfeeding the twins, Sean complained to me, "When's dinner? I'm starving." He even demanded a proper meal, not just something pre-made. I was perplexed about what to do when my father-in-law stepped in. "You're not a child. If you're hungry, make something yourself." His response was perfectly reasonable. Yet, Sean became defensive and said, "You're a housewife, so it's natural for you to cook." I rarely use pre-made food when I cook. But for Sean, even one pre-made item meant I was slacking off. Sean's mom joined in the argument. "Babies can't cook and eat by themselves." Then his dad added, "If you're so concerned about feeding, why don't you give the baby formula? You could do that." Faced with criticism from everyone, Sean made a surprising remark. "If I start doing things like breastfeeding, then what's left for the mother to do?" Both sets of parents were dumbfounded. I could only sigh. Afterwards, Sean's mom lectured him endlessly, and his dad thoroughly taught him how to change diapers and other childcare tasks. Sean looked lifeless, obviously doing it unwillingly and in a bad mood. 2 years passed, and I became pregnant again. Sean hadn't changed at all over these years. I continued to be overwhelmed with childcare and household chores. Without the help of Sean's parents, our life would have probably fallen apart. Sean's mom helped with housework, and his dad tried to teach Sean about childcare. Meanwhile, Sean seemed to resent his parents' involvement, always finding excuses to go out. Sean claimed he was busy with business trips and overtime, but I think he just didn't want to be at home. This pregnancy wasn't twins, but my morning sickness was worse than before. Especially the smell of cooked rice was unbearable, so inevitably, bread became a staple at our table. Sean was unhappy about this too, constantly complaining that he wanted freshly cooked rice. Angered by this, his mom told him, "If you want a meal, make it yourself." Surrounded by his parents, Sean reluctantly cooked the rice. Regardless of how it looked, I tried to eat the meal he prepared for the first time. However, due to my morning sickness, I couldn't finish it. Sean exaggeratedly sighed at the sight of the uneaten food. "I went through all this trouble, and this is it? If it's too awful to eat, just say so," he said before storming out of the house. About an hour later, Sean returned. From that point on, he stopped doing any household chores or childcare. His excuse was, "You're just wasting people's kindness." Unashamed, Sean started going out fishing on weekends as his hobby. On weekdays, he would go out for drinks, citing work commitments, and come home late. There were days I didn't even see his face. Realizing this couldn't go on, I apologized several times about the meal and asked for his help around the house. I requested him to come home a bit earlier on weekdays and to spend at least some weekends at home. I was hoping he would spend even a little time with the twins. But Sean's response was unbelievable. "I've taken care of the twins for 2 years. You should be used to it by now," he said before leaving for fishing. He even said, "It's only one baby this time, not like I can do anything." The 2-year-old twins, thanks to Sean's indifferent attitude, were not at all attached to him. In fact, they seemed to dislike being around him. They would frown and look like they were about to cry whenever Sean walked by. My biggest regret is wondering why I got pregnant with a 3rd child. I must have been fooled by Sean's occasional kind gestures. It's unfortunate, but there's nothing I can do about it now. The baby in my growing belly is innocent. Despite my mixed feelings, my pregnancy progressed smoothly, and I reached full term. Like the last time, I was scheduled for a cesarean section. Having experienced it before, I knew what to prepare for the hospital stay. However, the due date being right after Christmas meant a hectic holiday season. There's a big family gathering at Sean's parents' house for Christmas, but I won't be able to attend this year. The biggest problem with this childbirth is Sean. This time, there's the additional responsibility of taking care of the twins. It seems impossible without Sean's help. I wished Sean could take time off work to match the birth, but I doubt that will happen. As a last-ditch effort, I asked Sean if he could take care of the kids after he got back from work. His response was cold and devoid of any kindness. I can't make that kind of promise. What he said next was even worse. It's embarrassing for a man to take time off work for his wife's childbirth. It's like being a useless husband under his wife's thumb. I couldn't hold back and was about to retort when Sean demanded dinner. This stopped me in my tracks, and I lost the will to argue. Upset by my request, he continued to complain during dinner. At 2 years old, they should be able to eat by themselves. Sure, they might be able to eat, but they can't cook. Sean lacks that kind of imagination. I was so annoyed that I snapped back. Well, you should be more capable than a 2-year-old. Why don't you show them how it's done? Unfazed by my sarcasm, Sean said something outrageous. I'm the breadwinner. You're all living off what I earn. So you should be grateful and make me dinner. I couldn't understand his logic. His arguments were too far-fetched. Until I went to the hospital, Sean kept saying, I'm the one providing for you. I never intended to quit my job. It was Sean who pushed the idea of me being a stay-at-home wife after we got married. Every time he says, I'm providing for you, I think to myself, what nerve. Frustrated, I reached the week I was scheduled to be admitted to the hospital. Then, Sean made another tactless comment. You should attend the Christmas party. I couldn't understand why he would say that. Apparently, it looked bad for the head of the family to attend alone. He had no understanding of the pain and risks of childbirth. Childbirth is a life-risking endeavor. Sean's unreasonable demands continued. Why do I have to attend alone? Who's going to cook and serve drinks? It's as if he mistook me for a servant or a maid. The idea of risking my life for Sean's reputation was unbelievable. Sean often comes up with such ideas. We went back and forth with come and it's impossible several times. Finally, my father-in-law talked to Sean, and it was decided that I wouldn't attend. As the new year approached and the day before my hospital admission arrived, Sean was still sulking. Unfortunately, today was the day of the Christmas party. On the day of the party, I was lying down with a tight belly next to the twins. Suddenly, I noticed Sean standing over me. With sleepy eyes, I looked up at him. Today, I'm hosting a Christmas party for 20 family members. Make sure you don't embarrass me. What was Sean thinking? I was totally confused by his statement. I was sure the Christmas party was supposed to be at Sean's brother's house. Sean squatted down and shook my shoulder. Prepare a meal for 20 relatives and some desserts that women would enjoy, he said. It seemed Sean had unilaterally decided to host the Christmas party at our house. Everyone in the family, including Sean's parents, had been considerate about our twins and my current pregnancy. I couldn't understand why suddenly 20 people were coming over today. I hadn't noticed, but there were missed calls from my mother-in-law and father-in-law on my phone. I'm due to be hospitalized tomorrow. I could go into labor at any moment. Hosting 20 relatives in such a condition is absolutely impossible. I told Sean, it's impossible to do all this at the last minute. I asked, even if it costs more, can we have a catering service or something? I even humbly suggested. But Sean exploded in anger. I said we're doing it at my house. Are you trying to embarrass me? As the wife of the eldest son of the main family, you should keep up appearances. Sean was imposing his selfish will on me. Continuing with outdated notions like a wife should just be quiet and obey her husband. I no longer had the energy to argue back. When I fell silent, Sean seemed to take it as agreement and smiled. Then he said, I'm going to pick up the relatives now, so you get everything ready for hosting," and left immediately. With everything so arranged, I couldn't refuse. It would cause trouble for all the relatives. So, I started to prepare, despite my large belly. I emailed Sean, "I can't go shopping now, so I'll have to make do with what's available." Thinking about my hospital stay, I had stocked up on food for Sean. So the fridge was nearly empty, no matter. I managed to prepare the food while pressing on my tight belly. For drinks and alcohol, which I was short on, I decided to order delivery. Just as I finished all the preparations, I got a message from Sean that he was on his way home. In just 2 hours, I had managed to prepare the meals and drinks. I wanted to pat myself on the back. I put the twins to bed in the back room as they were starting to doze off. Soon, I heard voices and the front door opening. I went to the entrance to greet everyone. My mother-in-law and father-in-law asked me if I was okay. Their call earlier must have been out of concern. I just smiled vaguely, unable to say much else. The living and dining rooms were packed with 20 people as the Christmas party began. I was busy serving food and pouring drinks, with no time to sit down. Everyone kept asking me, "Are you okay?" and "Don't overdo it," to which I just smiled and brushed off. Sean, on the other hand, was in a great mood, boasting, "She's tough, that's her strong point." But Sean's parents and brother had frowns on their faces. Due to standing and moving around to serve drinks, the tightness in my belly became unbearable. I excused myself, saying, "I'm going to check on the sleeping kids," and left the room. As I looked at the children's sleeping faces, my eyelids grew heavy, and I lay down. After a while, the tightness turned into pain. Not wanting to worry everyone, I covered my mouth with both hands. But the pain in my abdomen grew stronger and clearer. It had been 3 hours since Sean sprung the news of the Christmas party on me. As I endured the pain, suddenly the door opened. It was Sean's brother. It seemed to have mistaken the room for the bathroom. "Sorry, wrong room," he said before closing the door and hurrying away. Shortly after, Sean's parents came in. Seeing me clutching my stomach and breathing heavily, they clenched their fists and looked furious. The next moment, Sean's mother shouted Sean and went back to the living room. I also staggered to my feet and returned to the living room. There, Sean's father had grabbed Sean by the collar, and the next moment a loud smack echoed through the room. Sean's cheek was red. His father had slapped him. His father's eyes were sharp, and his usually gentle face looked demonic. Even I, who wasn't being scolded, was taken aback. Sean was frozen in shock, his eyes wide open. "What are you doing?" His father yelled so loudly that Sean flinched. All the relatives who had been drinking and chatting stopped and stared at Sean in silence. "Do you understand Kelly's condition?" Sean's mother glared at him with a fierce look. One of the relatives noticed me and offered me a seat on the sofa. Others began to confront Sean. "You said the delivery wasn't due yet, but she's about to give birth. I thought you said she was still in the safe period," were some of the comments I heard. Apparently, Sean had told the relatives that my delivery wasn't due yet to get them to come. He had told his parents that there were no signs of labor yet, and my hospitalization was postponed. Everyone started looking at Sean with contempt. Relatives with children the same age as the twins were there, and some of them were saying, "I can't believe it." Women were heard saying, "If I were in her shoes, I'd be horrified, this is unforgivable, and he's the worst kind of husband." Others were saying, "We didn't know, sorry, and Sean deceived us." The atmosphere was more like a funeral than a Christmas party. Unable to bear the tension, Sean started making pitiful excuses. "She's using the twins and her pregnancy as an excuse to slack off on housework." Everyone focused on Sean, shocked at what he was saying. "That's why I made her cook for 20 people today and serve drinks." What he was saying made no sense to me. And probably even less to everyone else. But Sean continued. "She's been slacking off. This doesn't even make up for it." There were murmurs of disbelief. He made her cook? And for 20 people? Sean began to sweat under the accusing glares. A female relative suggested they break up the party and began cleaning up. The twins' cries could be heard from the back. Sean's parents headed to the twins. Sean's brother has a child about the same age as ours. He looked at Sean with contempt and muttered softly, "He's the worst." Sean was being called the worst as both a husband and a father, shrinking under the scrutiny. His usual assertive and arrogant demeanor was nowhere to be seen. Suddenly, my belly started to hurt. The intervals of pain were getting shorter. It was probably labor. I called out to Sean, who was being scolded and shrinking away. But he didn't respond. Someone asked me, "Should we call the hospital?" and I nodded slightly. Another person brought me a phone, and I called the hospital. They told me to come right away. I informed everyone, "I'm going to the hospital now," but couldn't get up. Sean's brother suggested calling an ambulance, and that's when Sean reacted. "If you call an ambulance, tell them not to use the siren. It's embarrassing if the neighbors find out." I couldn't believe he was more concerned about appearances than my condition. Everyone was stunned by his words, and Sean continued. "Go by yourself. It's your fault for ruining the mood anyway." It definitely wasn't my fault, it was all because of Sean's lies. Everyone else must think the same. Amidst the stunned silence, another smack was heard. Sean's mother had returned and slapped his cheek. Sean, his cheek held, was tearful. "I never thought you would be such a rotten person. Giving birth is a life-threatening endeavor." Behind her, Sean's father was holding the twins, looking furious. "The pain Kelly is experiencing is nothing like this," he exclaimed, trembling with anger and carefully setting the twins down. "I'm not in the wrong. It's because I'm the one supporting them," Sean insisted, saying it was my fault for embarrassing him in front of others and that he wasn't to blame. Even in this situation, he was flaunting his elitist attitude. Of course, no one sympathized with him. The sister-in-law raised her hand. "I haven't been drinking, I can drive." Everyone cheered. It was decided she would drive our car, and people began to move quickly, helping with my hospital bag and cleaning up. The bag was ready in the bedroom, so I asked Sean's mother to fetch it. Sean's father started helping with the dishes. Sean alone, rubbing his slapped cheek, muttered, "If you weren't my parents, I'd sue you." His face turned red. Perhaps embarrassed at his wounded pride. Meanwhile, the twins started crying loudly because of the commotion. The men took turns comforting them while the women hurried to clean up. Sean didn't help at all. Everyone else seemed to have stopped paying attention to him. I felt utterly disgusted with Sean. I honestly thought I no longer needed such a useless man. Sean's brother, who's good at entertaining children, started playing with the twins. He said, "I often play with kids at home, so leave it to me," and started playing with the twins. I managed to stand up with support and informed him about the toys in the kids' room and that they didn't have any food allergies. I added that he could use anything in the fridge. Sean kept muttering, "I'm not wrong," but I ignored him and headed for the door. Sean's sister-in-law then drove me to the hospital. Upon arrival, a nurse quickly called a doctor, who took me to the delivery room. It seemed labor could happen at any moment. As expected, as soon as I was on the delivery bed, I gave birth. It was a relief that the delivery was smooth. The only one who suffered was my sister-in-law. She couldn't go home and had to stay until the next morning. The day after I safely gave birth, Sean's parents came to the hospital with the twins. After the incident, Sean sulked in a corner of the room, drinking canned beer. Sean's father took him to the bedroom. Not wanting the children to see their father being scolded, a thoughtful gesture from him. I heard Sean's father scolded him all night. And Sean looked deflated. Sean's father told me this with a wry smile. After a while, Sean came to my hospital room. In front of his parents, he was meek and apologized in a low voice, saying, "Sorry about yesterday." The fact that both his parents had hit him seemed to have a significant impact on him. Sensing the situation, Sean's parents left us alone. As soon as they were gone, Sean's attitude changed. I was slapped by Dad and Mom because of you." He continued to complain about how I was inconsiderate and not thoughtful enough. At that moment, I was utterly fed up with Sean. I firmly decided to divorce him. Despite feeling anxious about becoming a single mother of 3, I knew I couldn't stay with Sean. I pressed the nurse call button without hesitation. A nurse came right away. Sean's parents followed her, returning to the room. "He's a stranger to me. Please ask him to leave." The nurse looked confused, but Sean's mother understood and promptly escorted Sean out of the room. Sean's parents left the hospital with him. Before they left, they told me my parents would come in the afternoon. Indeed, my parents arrived later that day. I told them about the previous day's events and my decision to divorce Sean. My parents initially thought Sean had cheated when they heard about the divorce from Sean's mother. They had been under the impression that divorce meant infidelity. They never imagined a heavily pregnant wife being commanded by her husband to prepare for a Christmas party and serve drinks. I explained everything to my parents, including being forced to cook for 20 people and serve drinks, how hard it had been, and how much I had endured. We all cried as I spoke. By the end of our conversation, we were smiling, relieved after crying. "Rest at home after the birth," my mother kindly said. I was discharged safely and am now recuperating at my parents' house. About the divorce, Sean's parents agreed there was no reason to oppose it. The only one strongly against it was Sean. He kept contacting me, but I blocked his calls and told his parents not to let him contact me. It seems Sean has lost his mental stability without me, who he treated like a servant. Living alone, Sean couldn't manage to clean up his house, and it became cluttered with trash. At work, he vented his frustration by repeatedly committing acts of power harassment, nearly facing disciplinary action from human resources. Despite this, Sean's attitude didn't change, and he even harassed his work clients. Eventually, Sean was fired. At that time, it seemed no one sympathized with him. Now, he's working in the fields at his parents' home, apparently being reprimanded and taught a lesson. Sean often cries saying, "The house where I lived with Kelly was my oasis." I heard all of that from his mother, with whom I'm still in contact. But for me, that house was nothing but a desert. With the help of Sean's parents, our divorce was successfully finalized. The house we lived in was sold, and I received all the money from the sale as alimony. I've decided to live at my parents' home. I still keep in touch with Sean's parents and brother. Sometimes, they come to play with the twins who say they missed the sister and brother who played with us that time. For Sean's parents, the twins are still their grandchildren. They visit when they can, happily playing with all 3 grandchildren. The kids are fond of their grandpa and grandma. I feel that if the Christmas party hadn't happened, I might not have been able to go to the hospital. Sean, on his own, couldn't have managed to take me to the hospital and look after the twins. Plus, that incident helped me make up my mind about Sean. In a way, I'm thankful to Sean for holding that party at our house. It really is a case of blessing in disguise. You never know how things will turn out. I'll never forget the gratitude I feel towards those who helped me then. With my 3 children, I want to become even happier and help others just as I was helped. Take good care of those 2, will you? What do you mean, take good care? Although John said it casually, I wonder if he would have accepted it if nothing had happened. I still don't quite understand. John was supposed to have gone on a business trip, but apparently, he had an accident at his destination. The call I received led me to a small town. It was suspicious that business trips, which had never been frequent before, suddenly increased, and he started going several times a month. Moreover, an employee of a copier company having a traffic accident in a town must mean something's up. While thinking about all this at the hospital, I accidentally ran into Emily. Why is Emily here? And what does it mean that she was in the town with John? Even in this seemingly desperate situation, it's infuriating to think he believes he can still deceive everyone. Does he think I'm just going to let this slide? I have strong allies, so there's no way John can escape without consequences. He should wake up to reality and rethink his actions. My name is Aita Smith. I'm a 33-year-old preschool teacher. After graduating from a community college, I started working at a fairly large town's daycare center. The job as a preschool teacher is harder than I thought, but being around these always smiling kids somehow makes me feel refreshed. However, constantly dealing with children at work, I sometimes yearn for adult conversation. Surrounded by dozens of kids, with a few fellow teachers around, I remain an educator in front of the children. Busy with work and unable to match schedules with college friends, I hardly have time for a coffee break. I don't have time to make friends with similar interests. So I'm always an educator when interacting with anyone other than myself. As a teacher, I can't really have adult-to-adult conversations. At my workplace, I am strictly a teacher, nothing more. One day, I was asked to take over the data management at work. A teacher going on maternity leave had been handling it, and it fell to me, seemingly the most idle and timid. Honestly, managing the data is just more hassle, not something to be happy about. I wanted to go home early and work as little and as easily as possible, so this was nothing but an additional chore. Even a job like managing the printer, which I was not used to in my usual work. I really hated it. Ensuring the printer works smoothly, refilling ink, and managing paper stock. It's all so bothersome. However, I couldn't have imagined that a person who would dispel my gloomy feelings was about to appear. In the afternoon, the daycare's bell rang, and the data manager, which was now me, was called to the staff room. It was nap time for the kids, so after informing my paired teacher, I headed to the staff room. "Hello. I've come for the printer inspection." I think I reacted as if I had been electrocuted at that moment. For some reason, his appearance or voice, there was something indescribable about him. Yes. I'm in charge. I took over from the previous person, and now I'm responsible. Nice to meet you." "Nice to meet you. I'm John Smith from the printer company." My first impression of John was pretty intriguing. It wasn't the kind of feeling you'd normally have for someone you meet through work. It felt strangely familiar, like I had met him somewhere before. "You probably won't remember. Do you sometimes stop by the store in front of the station in the morning?" That comment jogged my memory. "Oh. You were in the snacks section at the store, right?" I occasionally stop by the store near the station to grab lunch or a drink. The items I buy vary, but there's always this guy there at a certain time. Right at the entrance, standing near the prominently displayed new products shelf, carefully choosing which one to buy. That was him. "Actually, I've seen you at the store. Never thought I'd meet you here." That's my line. I was curious about the new snacks, but I also found myself wondering about the lady I saw there sometimes. Could something like this really happen? Usually busy with kids at work, I, a woman with virtually no encounters with men, remember feeling thrilled by his words. "Talking about work is one thing, but how about we exchange contact info?" "Of course." That was how I, on the day I met the printer company representative, ended up exchanging contacts with him. We gradually got closer, sharing little daily incidents and amusing stories, and he became more and more significant to me. It was love at first sight for me. But as I got to know Aita, I realized she's someone I want to be with all the time, someone who makes me feel so at ease. "Will you marry me? I can't believe this dreamlike day has come. I'm so happy." For me, who thought I'd just aged being focused on work, this was an unexpected spring. Meeting someone by chance on the streets, deepening our interaction and love, and moving towards marriage as a goal. At that moment, I was on top of the world, but I also had another thought in my heart. I won't end up like my sister. I will seize my happiness. I whispered that to myself. My sister, Emily, is 2 years older than me. Though we're not far apart in age, the idea that we're close as sisters is a complete misconception. I'm, well, not exactly a standout type. Just an average person who decided to become a preschool teacher because I loved kids, with decent grades and an okay sense of style. On the other hand, Emily was the total opposite, always focused on fashion. She was always thinking about how to stay beautiful and stylish. The kind of person who was part of the top, trend-setting, somewhat admired group in her school. Perhaps it's because of such relationships, but dating men has been a common occurrence since my student days. Ever since she got a boyfriend in her first year of middle school, Emily had never been without a boyfriend. She moved out of her parents' house right after high school graduation to live with her then boyfriend. In the end, she had a daughter at the age of 25 and settled down, but soon after, she got divorced. I sometimes checked if she's doing well by connecting with her on social media. She always dressed up stylishly and posted dazzling photos, but I couldn't help but feel a sense of emptiness. More like a fake facade from my childhood when I couldn't stand not being the center of attention, rather than a real mother. It's not about flaunting happiness in front of others. I believed that I should weave a happiness that fulfills myself and John. That was my belief. Life was blissful right after we got married. Coming home to someone I love, sharing meals, and enjoying the calm evenings together was something I cherished. We'd share our day's experiences and laugh together. Those moments were priceless to me. But at some point, things with John started to feel off. He began commenting on my appearance and behavior. He seemed like the type who wanted to control others, always offering unsolicited advice. At first, I tried not to mind it, but it was becoming too much. "Hey, Aita, don't you ever do your makeup properly?" As a preschool teacher, it tends to come off while taking care of kids or playing with them, so not really. "But isn't that outfit a bit too casual for work?" "Is it? I always dress like this, don't I?" That day, I was wearing a hoodie and jeans. Since I bike to the daycare, I prioritize comfort, and I change into work clothes there anyway. I've always commuted in this style without any issues. Most working women in their 30s don't walk around in such casual clothes. It looks like loungewear. Really? I've always dressed like this. What's up all of a sudden? John always had something to say about my clothes or belongings. From my bag and outfit to my hairstyle and makeup, he'd complain they weren't feminine enough or didn't fit a working adult. Once, when we went out for lunch near the station and stopped by a bookstore, he picked up a women's magazine and started this conversation. "Hey, Aita, why don't you dress like this?" It was a magazine targeted at ladies, adorned with flashy text and decorations. "Win this summer with a dress, get ready for a date with a $300 outfit." Honestly, these were far from my interests and lifestyle. "Sorry, but I'm not really into this stuff. It doesn't suit me or my job." "Oh, so you're not interested in matching my taste?" He turned moody after that. 6 months into our marriage, he started acting strangely and would get upset for no reason. I couldn't understand what John wanted or was thinking. Since then, our relationship has felt strained. We only have minimal conversation now, with no room for fun chats or light jokes. It's like there's a draft between us. Though we've never had a big fight or anything to apologize for. I can't figure out where things went wrong. If there had been some issue or argument in the past, I could trace back and try to resolve it, but honestly, I'm clueless. The only thing that comes to mind is when I turned down the outfit John wanted me to wear. Could that be the cause? Living together, sharing the same space and time, I thought we'd find some common ground for casual conversation. There was a TV special about infidelity airing at the time. The usual commentators and hosts were debating definitions of cheating and where the line is drawn. Of course, I'm totally against cheating. I've even broken up with past boyfriends because of their infidelity. In my view, cheating is absolutely off limits, especially in a marriage. Trying to lighten the mood, I casually brought it up to John. "Hey, this TV show is discussing infidelity." "Yeah, well, love takes different forms for everyone, doesn't it?" "Love does come in different forms, sure." Then, John started speaking rapidly, almost as if he was trying to convince me. "Think about it, right? Isn't it weird that a single piece of paper called marriage suddenly means you can't fall in love with anyone else for the rest of your life? I mean, what's up with that? A bit of free love should be okay. Honestly, there was something unsettling about his words, not quite what you'd expect from a married man. It made me wonder if something had happened. Or if John was the type who wanted to continue romantic adventures even after marriage. Besides, love isn't defined by marriage as a formality, but by the depth of feeling, right? No matter how married you are, if you don't truly love someone, it's meaningless. Hearing this made me question what marriage meant to John, and it left me feeling uneasy. His words seemed directed at me, and I couldn't bring myself to look him in the eye. How could I have fallen for someone who can say such unbelievable things without batting an eye? I must have been out of my mind back then. Days passed, but I couldn't shake off what John had said. Knowing him, he wasn't the type to joke about such things, which only made me feel more perplexed and eager to find out the truth. I wondered if there was any way to investigate this. I flipped through work files. Then it hit me, maybe I could ask someone for confirmation. One day, John came home, avoiding my gaze, and said, "I have to go on a business trip tomorrow." "Another business trip? Weren't you gone for like 3 days last week?" Unfazed by my surprise, John replied nonchalantly, "Can't help it, right? Someone quit unexpectedly at this busy time, and work isn't getting done. I'm like the go-to big brother there, I have to keep things running." His sudden announcement made me ask, "Hey, is the person who quit someone I know? The senior you talked about before?" I used to have an idea of who he mentioned from work since John used to share office stories and funny incidents. My casual question was met with a hard look. "What? Does it matter who it is? What's it got to do with you, Aita?" "No, it's just small talk, nothing more." But John, clearly irked, cut the conversation short and went to the bathroom. Lately, his business trips seemed to be increasing. 3 years into our marriage, there hadn't been any significant talk of department changes or promotions. Nothing from John, at least. But the trips had become more frequent. From once a month to twice, then thrice. Now, he's often gone twice a week, and sometimes even the entire week. The next day, before leaving for work, John said to me, "This trip is with an important client, so don't you dare contact me." "What?" The seriousness of his request surprised me. "Got it? If my phone rings during a crucial deal and I get distracted, it's on you. Can you handle the responsibility if a $200 million contract falls through?" With those words, he left, and I watched his retreating figure, deep in thought. I got ready and headed to work. As usual, in my hoodie and jeans, riding my trusty old bike. I finished my duties at the daycare and was going to take a break. I noticed the TV in the break room was covering a traffic accident. While chatting with a colleague about the dangers of traffic accidents, my phone rang. I don't usually carry my phone at work, but I had it with me in the break room and noticed the call immediately. It was from an unknown number, and to my surprise, it was the police on the line. They were calling to inform me that John had been in a traffic accident. Just the other day, he seemed fine, but now in an accident? I couldn't believe it, but I composed myself to hear more. He was in critical condition from the accident and had been rushed to the hospital. He was still unconscious, and they wanted me to come right away. I hurriedly asked for the location of the accident and the hospital's name. But something struck me as odd when I heard the name of the police station. It was in a famous town for sightseeing. Why would John be on a business trip there? This thought crossed my mind. But regardless, I needed to rush to John's side. The story begins from there. After consulting with the daycare director, I left work early and took some time off to be with John. But before heading to him, there was something I needed to do first. I made a phone call. And soon, documents were sent to my house. At the hospital, John was lying in bed. He didn't wake up for 5 days, but finally regained consciousness. The doctor said he had a head-on collision with a truck, resulting in severe damage and partial paralysis. No way, John, you're kidding, right? Sorry, but please take care of the two of us. I was lost in thought at his words. Take care of the two of us? What was he talking about? It didn't seem like a joke, so I asked. Sorry, but who are the two people you're referring to? John's expression briefly showed he had slipped up. Who else? It's me and Erica. Erica is Emily's daughter, my niece. I had met her a few times at my parents' house, but why bring her up now? Why are you suddenly mentioning Erica? Well, I got a call from Erica during my trip. She asked me to take care of her if anything happened to her. The fact that Erica would contact John directly, and not her mother, was puzzling. Why not ask Emily? I blurted out. Wait, you have Erica's contact info? Well, it's more like I was in touch with Emily. John and Emily were in contact? And what did he mean by take care of if something happened? His hesitant tone was particularly troubling. I was still trying to process all this when a nurse wheeled in another hospital bed. The fellow passenger in the same traffic accident, the nurse said as she wheeled in the bed. I couldn't help but cry out when I saw who was in that bed. It was unmistakably Emily. And her belly was noticeably large. Emily? Why are you here? And that belly? I was baffled by what the nurse said about them being co-passengers in the same accident. And the two people John was referring to earlier, could it be? So, let me get this straight. Because of the accident, you're asking me to take care of you and my sister, right? Exactly. You catch on quick. It's great to have a woman who's sharp in situations like this. I felt as if all the blood had drained from my body. This was too perfect to be a mere coincidence. It couldn't possibly be a coincidence. I was scared to ask, but I had to. Don't tell me, John, you were on a supposed business trip here with my sister and got into this accident? Well, the trip was real, or rather not a lie. It just happened that Emily was here, and I thought I'd drop her off. His stammering, desperate excuses were pathetic. I could somewhat sense that my voice was trembling. I could barely comprehend the situation I was in. So, you coincidentally met my sister during a business trip and ended up sightseeing together? I blurted out at John, overwhelmed by emotions. My emotions are a mess, torn between not wanting to hear any more and knowing this isn't an issue I can just ignore. Whether he knew about my feelings or not, John was speaking in a nonchalant tone. He probably still hasn't fully grasped the situation he's in. John was trying to figure out how to talk his way out of this. His eyes were busy, darting here and there. You're blowing this way out of proportion. It's your bad habit to always think the worst, he retorted. I seized the opportunity to confront him with the truth. John, this was a fake business trip, wasn't it? A cover for your affair with my sister. Me? On a fake business trip? I'm a sought-after man, I don't have time for such things. He seemed to think that yelling would make the problem go away. So, you're saying you weren't on a fake trip? Even if you shout, I wonder if the boss would believe that? John always put work first and valued his reputation above all. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that his work was solely driven by how much he was evaluated and praised by important people. Mentioning the company president's name made him flinch. When I mentioned the president's name, it seemed like he flinched for a moment. What? The president? What does he have to do with this? If you're not doing anything shady, you should be able to explain everything to the president, if you can, that is. John scoffed. You don't understand how it works. A president doesn't get involved in every little employee's business trip. You're embarrassing yourself not knowing that. Say whatever you want. Oh, and I have a letter from that very president. The moment he saw the envelope with the company's name, his expression changed from despair to joy. Finally, my efforts have been recognized. Working from entry-level to regular employee for over 15 years, it all meant something, John said with a sense of accomplishment. Really, a raise? I asked, almost bursting into laughter at his confident assumption. Of course. My peers have been getting promotions, and I've been waiting for my turn for over a decade. But hard work pays off. Hurry, hand over the letter. He genuinely seemed to believe the envelope contained a notice of his salary increase. Here you go, take your time reading it, I said as I handed him the envelope. He snatched it roughly and placed it on the hospital table. Holding the envelope, he looked at it intently, his face tense with anticipation. As he tore open the envelope, his excitement was evident. But upon unfolding the paper, his expression froze. A termination notice. Why me? The envelope was actually from John's company's president. Look, there's more paperwork inside the envelope. You'll understand once you go through it. Shut up. Just shut up. He snapped, flipping the envelope upside down and spilling out all its contents. The documents scattered on the table, some falling to the floor. Receipt discrepancies for claimed expenses, and inconsistencies in your travel routes. Do any of these ring a bell? No way, that can't be. I had contacted the company's president right after the accident, asking him to check John's company phone GPS and expense receipts. The president was already suspicious of John's actions. He was proactive in his response, especially since it was an employee's wife who reached out. Thanks to the president's efforts, a mountain of irrefutable evidence against John was gathered in no time. No matter how much John tried, the fact that he had been misusing company funds on fake business trips was undeniable. It seems the president has been watching you closely, John. He's thorough, isn't he? Shut up. There's nothing you can do now. Your usual tricks and lies won't work. How much did you know? Everything. I knew you were getting fired. I had been informed by the president that John was scheduled for dismissal. However, considering his long service, they had offered him the option to resign voluntarily. What am I supposed to do now? Oh right, Aita, you're a preschool teacher, so you're fine. Fine? What do you mean? I questioned his smug expression. You have qualifications, so you can work anywhere, anytime. I may have my certification, but I'll become a stay-at-home husband, managing the house, taking care of Emily and her child. Nowadays, with volunteers and helpers, we can manage childcare. Meanwhile, you work. Sounds like a good plan, right? I was disgusted by John's rambling, his nostrils flaring with excitement. His selfish remarks were a mix of astonishment and anger, stirring indescribable emotions within me. Who's going to lend you a hand? You and some volunteers, he said, still believing someone would help him out, a mindset I couldn't comprehend. People say that life is about helping each other, but in this case, it's clear that all he's thinking about is receiving help unilaterally. Relying on someone isn't bad, but living a life where you only think about getting help and relying on others, what's that about? I didn't work hard to earn my preschool teaching qualification just to support a cheating, dishonest man. I'm not working to live with someone like that. I handed John the business card of the lawyer I had already hired. We're getting a divorce. I'll be seeking alimony. Any further discussions will go through the lawyer. A divorce? Demanding alimony from a partially paralyzed person? Are you a demon? Do you even realize what you're doing? I sighed in exasperation and said, Do you realize what you've done? I could throw your words right back at you. Maybe if you reflect on your actions, you'll understand. Weren't you in love with me, and didn't we marry? What about the vows we took in sickness and in health? Were they all lies? John grasped the hem of my shirt with his functioning hand, but I briskly shook it off. Looking down at Emily in the next bed, I said, Emily, you've always needed to be number one, haven't you? Even towards me, your younger sister. Emily's expression faltered for a moment but quickly returned to normal. Of course. I couldn't stand the idea of plain Aita getting married before me. I was supposed to be the one to marry into wealth first. Marry into wealth? I asked incredulously. Yes. My first boyfriend right after high school was just into casinos and didn't work. Erica's father earned a meager salary, and we were still living in an apartment. I couldn't stand it anymore," Emily said tearfully, but her words were utterly self-centered. "You only think about what others can do for you. I'm a woman. Looking beautiful is my job, right? I want to be a shining jewel beside my husband. And I thought John, despite not being very handsome, worked at a well-known company and had a good salary?" I asked, to which she glared at me. "You didn't divorce John quickly, so we had to sneak around and ended up in this accident." As Emily glanced back and forth between John and me, I asked, "So you're saying it's my fault?" "Yes, what about it?" "The choice of a marriage partner was undoubtedly your own. Using someone's income as an excuse to meddle with another person's husband doesn't justify anything." Realizing further conversation with these two would only exhaust me, I decided to leave. Lingering in the hospital room would only cause more disturbance. Their dialogue was like something out of a drama, unbelievable and overly dramatic. The extent of their unreasonable statements left me speechless. I'll discuss the rest with Emily through the lawyer. For now, just know that I'm seeking a lump sum in alimony." "Alimony? Against a partially paralyzed person?" "Sorry, but you were on a cheating trip, weren't you? You brought this on yourself." Emily reacted strongly to my words of "you brought this on yourself." Mumbling to herself in denial, her face grew increasingly pale, and I couldn't help but feel amazed at how far she was willing to run from reality. Eventually, John and I divorced. With a strong lawyer specializing in divorce cases, I successfully obtained higher than average alimony from John. After resigning from his job, John was heard to be drifting from place to place. Emily, having tried to steal her own sister's husband, ended up being disowned by her family. She's been aimlessly wandering, with nowhere to go. She did receive assistance from a facility that supports people with disabilities, but all she did was complain, "This isn't the kind of work I should be doing, and I can't stand these trivial tasks." Her behavior was not only unproductive but also disruptive to others, leading to her being banned from the facility. Now, she's barely getting by on minimal disability insurance. As for Emily's child Erica, after contacting Erica's father, he gladly agreed to take her in. This was a relief, considering the custody battle during their divorce where Emily insisted that a mother should always be with her child, and the mediator granted her custody. I was somewhat worried about Erica, so it's truly a relief she's with her father, away from Emily's influence. I felt relieved because staying with Emily, Erica wouldn't have been truly happy. I continue to work at the daycare, living my usual life. As for the alimony, John's family ended up paying his part, and Emily is repaying hers through a loan. Although the settlement was more than I expected, the happy days of ignorance are gone and won't return. Now, all I can do is look forward and move on. There's no point in looking back since I can't return to those days. Perhaps quitting my job and traveling to unknown countries could be a good change. These are the thoughts I ponder as I go about my day.